Hello there. You're welcome to Quaky Tech, and this is the Tech Class Show. I am Kasafa, your favorite host. If today is your first time, please do subscribe because we have amazing content coming up for you. If you're already part of the family, hey boo, we love you. Thank you for staying tuned. And as usual, we have a very interesting topic for you. So please don't go anywhere, stay glued to your seat. Today, we will be discussing imposter syndrome. And I have with me here some beautiful tech classes who will be sharing their opinions on this particular topic for us. Hello, ladies.
Hi.
You're welcome to Kweku Tech and my show.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Your name and
So
where
my
you are
name-
calling for.
So my name is El Karis Asiedu, and I'm working as a software engineer at Zuberi.
Nice.
My name is Mamia Joa Bremba. You can call me Bremby. I work as a software engineer at Turntable Ghana.
Some big tech classes in the area today. Now, ladies, what do you understand by imposter syndrome, or what comes to mind when you hear imposter syndrome? I'll start with you, Bremby.
The last time I was on this show, it started with me. I don't know. Anyway, so imposter syndrome, I think, is a technical term that describes people feeling inadequate in whatever field they find themselves in. I mean, even outside of tech. So anytime you feel you're going to be caught because you're not too good at what you do, chances are that you're experiencing what we call imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. So it's not really like you are not good, but you're just feeling like you are not good. Is there a difference?
Yes, there's a huge difference. But an imposter, yes, following what she said, if you are an imposter, it's like you're basically not where you're supposed to be. An imposter is out of place, and where everyone is the same or something, you are out of place. So that's the feeling an imposter will have. I think the feeling is different from actually being, because for the feeling, you actually know how to do it, but then you just find yourself in a situation where you feel inadequate. It's different from not knowing at all and then not doing, because we went to school, we trained, we practiced, we did tutorials, but you just find yourself in a situation where you feel inadequate. So that's what I think.
That's interesting. Then please take notes. If you are feeling like that, then do take some tips from this video and get help. Right. So how common is this in the tech field, taking both men and women into consideration?
I'll speak from my point of view. It's very common, because especially when you are starting at a new role and you are still getting used to how things are done and familiarizing yourself with their systems. Yeah.
Is it common, Bremby?
I think it's common in any field at all. And imposter syndrome, everybody gets it at one point in time or the other. Usually when you're starting off a new venture, like Carrie said, you find that you have imposter syndrome, or sometimes when you have little knowledge of something that you are into, you don't have that confidence, so you feel you're always going to be found out. Yeah, so that's also like causes that.
But how come we hardly hear anything of that sort if it's this common? Like,
Well, people don't like to look like they're struggling. Maybe you might be going through a challenge, but you don't really want other people to know. So that's why you don't commonly hear when people actually having imposter syndrome. Maybe they might speak to one person close to them, but people won't just come out. Normally, people don't just tell anyone around that they are going through this.
is it a societal something? Like, 'cause it's like Africans or Ghanaians, but we are built to be strong kind of thing. Like, Do you think it has anything to do with why we don't really talk about such issues?
Yes. Yes and no. I think that people don't know the technical term imposter syndrome. I think that is very common in tech, so most of us are aware of it, but not a lot of people. A lot of people are experiencing it, but they don't know that it's called imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Yes, and also yes, because people don't generally like to look like they are weak, right? When somebody is suffering, they don't want other people to know that they are suffering, because it looks like you will think I'm weak. You wouldn't want to give me something better or something higher to do because you think I'm weak. So people hide it and they don't seek help because they just don't want to appear weak. Nobody wants to appear weak. Yeah.
But is it something with our organizations? Because if appearing weak is something that is acceptable in the, let me say, in the organizations or in the societies, then at least everyone will feel free to open up. But if you open up and it's used against you somehow or something, like that can also make you keep it a bit. Or what do you think?
Yeah. So I think it also depends on your working environment, because generally some places are perfectionists. So you might find yourself in a position that you also need to be perfect in order to fit in. But also some other organizations, there's more grace to make mistakes, learn, and grow, basically. So I think that's what happens.
For me, I'd say I think it depends on the level you are in whatever field you find yourself in. I'll use tech as an example because that's the field I find myself in. Usually when you're a junior, you don't know a lot of things, right? So sometimes the pressure comes from you yourself. You feel you need to prove something when nobody is actually putting pressure on you. Yes. So that makes you always feel like an imposter. And then there's the organization part where when you're a junior, you're allowed to, some organizations can allow you to make certain mistakes. But when you climb the ladder, there are some things they don't expect you to not know, or they expect you to know. So when you are there, you realize, okay, your foundation is a bit shaky. That also puts pressure on you because you know your job is on the line and all that. So I think it varies. Yeah.
Now, looking at it from the woman perspective, how common is this in the women? I mean, among the women in tech?
Taking it from the woman perspective, I think the fact that there's a gender gap also plays a role, because usually when you find yourself in a firm, chances are that the men are more than the women, or sometimes you can even be the only woman working in that industry. So like I was mentioning earlier, it puts a lot of pressure on you because you feel you need to prove your worth. And sometimes other people are expecting you to also prove your worth. So even with the slightest mistake, you end up not forgiving yourself because you've raised the bar so high for yourself. And when you're not able to achieve that, you don't even understand that it's a process. You keep being so hard on yourself. And when that happens, you just feel, okay, I'm not good enough because I was supposed to meet targets A, B, C, and I couldn't even meet half of target A. So I'm not so good enough. Very soon they'll find me out and I'll be out of the door in no time. So I think bringing it to women, the fact that there's that gender gap in our industry, that's like a huge factor.
That's interesting. So, talking about how you feel as a woman in such a situation, can you mention a few consequences of this imposter syndrome on anyone, be it a man or woman?
I feel it can greatly affect your productivity, because you end up worrying too much. You feel like you can't do it. Then at the end of the day, you're actually not doing your task or performing as you're supposed to. So that's one of the consequences I think imposter syndrome brings. It affects your productivity.
I was going to mention a point, but I'll just say that it affects your environment as well. What I've noticed is that people that are struggling within end up being very unfriendly because, first of all, you are thinking that you are an imposter. You are not good enough. That's what you think of yourself. So you just assume that everybody thinks that you are not also good. So usually people like that are very defensive. If you're in a workplace with people like that, you find out that they always want to prove something. They always want to put you down because it makes them feel that, okay, I'm there. So, and it makes them not good team players, and it affects them as well. So those are the negative effects. You affect the people around you, and then you put unnecessary pressure on yourself as well.
That's interesting. Wow, that's a lot. So, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, if you are feeling anything like this, then please do get help. Now, talking about help, how do you think we can help people out of this, as in, be it they are our teammates or our friends, or like from our individual perspective, how can we help them?
Okay, so I think the way we can help imposter syndrome is by sharing more about our stories, because even on this channel we speak about people's journeys and all, and then you've come to realize that imposter syndrome is actually very common. So people usually feel lonely with imposter syndrome, but if they see examples of people that have had imposter syndrome and they've overcome it, then they can also see that, oh, I'm going through this, but I can get through it. So I think encouraging people to share more about their stories and about how they went through it, it's important. It's a way we can help this issue.
Okay, I'd say that you have to share. Sometimes it's not easy like that, but you have to share. We are not magicians working around, and we can't really tell what you are struggling with if you are not telling anybody about it. And if you find that you can't really talk about it, I think you can Google on it. Now it's a topic that's gaining more popularity. Yes. And it's nice that our seniors and our mentors also share that it's okay to not be perfect. One time I heard a senior engineer say, oh, I don't even remember all the Git commands. Every time I have to Google. So I was like, oh, then it doesn't mean I'm bad. Exactly. Yeah, I don't have to know all that of head, you know. So when people share their stories, their journeys, it encourages you, because there's nothing you are going through that nobody has faced before. Yeah.
How can the industries or the firms, the organizations, how can they also help? I mean, if, let's say, you are paying somebody good money to come up with something, and the person is in this state and the work is not getting, would you just sack the person and get someone on board? Or, I mean, well, it's good money they are losing.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like the way in schools, there are counselors. There can be some kind of way to engage employees on their struggles, and then see how they can meet them halfway. Like, okay, what are you going through? What are some challenges you've been having? So management and then industries, they can introduce such things about bringing people in to just talk to about, so you can talk to them about what you're going through, and then give them suggestions on what they can do to also help you get through that.
Okay, so not like talking to the managers directly.
Directly, because but bringing somebody in, like a counselor or something.
That's a good idea.
So I think that imposter syndrome, like looking at the causes, right? There are two things involved. Sometimes you genuinely don't know, so you feel like an imposter, and other times you feel you are not doing enough, right? So when you know, because when you genuinely do not know, you know you don't know.
Yeah.
When you do not know, naturally, when you know about something, you are just naturally confident about it. I can speak English confidently because I've gone to school. But if I was speaking French, I'd be jittery and all of that. So if you find out you genuinely do not know, if it's the software engineering industry you find yourself in, you need to practice, practice and build your confidence. But if we are in an organization and you realize that this person actually knows, this person is actually doing well, but they don't believe in themselves so much, you can highlight on their strengths. Oh, you did this and I think that was really awesome. It just boosts their confidence. And even if they go wrong, there's always a nice way of telling people about how they are performing poorly.
Yeah.
So if there's that balance, I think it helps.
Now we've explained the fact that imposter syndrome is you finding yourself somewhere and feeling like you are not supposed to be there. But what if actually you are not supposed to be there? What if that is not your calling in life and you're trying to push yourself in there? I mean, how do you manage to figure out the difference? Whether it's an imposter syndrome or it's really not your calling.
Okay, that's an interesting question. Okay, I think that in whatever you're doing, that shouldn't be the only thing you are doing. So engaging with other stuff, every day we learn new things. So I think every day you should be trying to learn new things. So engaging with other stuff, you can realize that, oh, I have strengths here and I have weaknesses here. So if you realize that you have weakness somewhere and your strength is somewhere else, I feel like you can also go and explore. And there's nothing wrong with making a mistake and then leaving something to try something new. I think when people put pressure on themselves to force one thing to work, I feel like if you've worked on one thing and you realize you are good at something else, you can also explore that. So there's nothing wrong with stopping and also trying something new.
We're told never to give up.
No, this is not giving up. It's not giving up because we have strengths and we have weaknesses. So if you realize you're weak somewhere, and it's not a one day thing. Imposter syndrome sometimes is it's a feeling. How do I put this thing? You feel it in a moment. If it has been going on for a year, like constantly, then I feel like you need to evaluate yourself. Maybe you're actually not where you're supposed to be, and that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with switching your career.
Brimby, what do you think?
Off the top of my head, I've seen the solutions to switch. Yes, because this is life, right? And nobody is putting a gun to your head to say, be here and don't move, right? So if and I feel that when you know you are not supposed to, when you're somewhere you know you're not supposed to be, there's just that inner feeling that you're not supposed to be here. And there are signs to show. First, you find you are not interested in anything. You are burned out. Nothing excites you about it. You don't want to know more about it. So if you are seeing those things and it's going on for a very long time, like Carrie said, a very long time, because there are periods where you just feel like that. There are bad days. But if it's going on for like 1 year, 2 years, then you are probably in the wrong space. And you can find what interests you. There are things that will just pique your interest. So stuff that you feel you are interested in, you can venture into it, and there's nothing wrong with starting afresh.
But can you also relate it to your personal experience? Because you mentioned that you started in a role and you've noticed yourself switching. So do you feel like you've given up? Or you are just
interviewing the interviewer?
You are just exploring new options, because there's really nothing wrong with exploring something new.
Well, that is an interesting question for the host, but yeah, I'll answer that. So, it was a tough decision, and it's actually a decision I'm still making, even as of now, because there are lots of people who see you and all they see is a software engineer. Like, so even myself, whenever I'm filling a form and I'm asked, what is your career? What do you do? The first thing that comes to mind is software engineer. I have to pause and breathe before. So I feel like it's a lot on anyone trying to switch, because everyone around you feels like you are giving up. But I feel like life is full of different experiences. If you don't give yourself the chance to explore other things, you die hungry.
Yeah. And especially when we are young, I feel like you don't need to have everything figured out.
Exactly.
You can try new things.
Yeah.
Let's say you like data stuff, but you find yourself in a software engineering career. You can still be doing data on the side, and then you might realize there's a time that you can make the switch.
Yeah.
So I think there's really nothing wrong with changing your career.
Sometimes you can also just let it go. Me, I just switched because it was hectic on me, and funny enough, I just picked it up again. Was it last week? Yeah. I just picked it up again. It's like when I find myself doing it, I like it until I don't. So if there are other things that I'm good at, why not? There's freedom.
Yeah.
The host has answered her question. So, taking it from the women perspective, how do you think the women communities can support the women going through such things? I mean, such situation.
Okay, I think we are doing just that. I mean, the fact that we're having this show is like a contribution, and like we've talked about this already. Sharing your story, making it obvious that you don't have to have it all figured out at one time. Like, it gets broader as you go, and even if it's one field you're in, there are so many sub fields. There are so many disciplines within that field. So if you are in a particular discipline in that field and you're not doing well, you can explore another discipline. You don't box yourself. I feel that our part of the world doesn't really favor frequent career switches as compared to the Western world, where you can find someone say, oh, I was a nurse, now I'm in tech, or I was in tech, now I'm a lawyer. We don't really have that, but we are growing, so I feel we'll get there. But don't be afraid, basically, because at the end of the day, when you look back, you regret not making that decision. So people should share their stories. Like, share your story. Be real. Don't lie. You struggled at the beginning. Share what made you struggle. What do you think made you get better? Share those stories, and people can always relate to those stories. Yeah.
There are lots of areas in tech that you can explore. So don't fix yourself in that box. Explore tech broadly. If tech is where you want to be. Okay. Now, I would like to take your last words. Unfortunately, as the conversation is getting more interesting, my guests have to leave. So, your last words, I'll start from you.
Okay, so I'll say that know that imposter syndrome is very normal, and we all go through it. A lot of people have gone through it. So, just give yourself that grace, and then allow yourself to make mistakes. And I feel like engaging with other people and that's learning their stories, it can also make you feel like you're not alone. So that's one thing you can try. Just talk to people, engage with them, and then you notice that, you feel better because you're not alone. Yeah, so that's one thing I can say.
Talk to people, engage with them, and you feel better.
Imposter syndrome is very normal. Everybody goes through it. But then you'll be doing yourself harm if you are staying there because you are feeling you're not good. It won't get better if you stay there. So you move in spite of the fact that you are feeling you are not good enough, right? Life goes on. Nobody will say, oh, she's in her bad days or he's in his bad days, so let's excuse him. Life still goes on. So even as you are feeling you are not good enough, maybe it's an insecurity you have, just work on it and move, because chances are that even when you get to the highest level, you will still feel that you don't know enough. That's just how it is. So move regardless.
Just work on it, move regardless. And I'll add to it, do your best. That's enough. Okay. Thank you very much for coming. I will take your social media handles so that if anyone wants to follow you, probably they can come to you for some mentorship, advice on this topic, and yeah.
Sure. So you can follow me on LinkedIn. Just connect with me at El Caris Asiedu. Then we can talk.
Nice.
Yes, same for me. I'm active on LinkedIn. Mami Ajwa Bremba, Mami Ajwa Boachiwa Bremba. But if you search Mami Ajwa Bremba, you'd find me on LinkedIn.
All right. Thank you for staying tuned all this while. So this is Peku Tech, and this was the Tech Class Show. Please do subscribe if you haven't already. And if you're already part of the family, thank you for always being with us. We'll see you next time. It's your host, your one Kasafa. See you next time. Bye.